Okay.
Oh, boom! The TruMon Show with Arthur and Fiona Christian. How are you?
Well,
Good.
thank you.
Thank
Good.
you.
This is a continuum of the last one we did, me and Arthur, last Sunday. We were talking about the box life because if you don't think you live in a box, well, you talk on a box, you live in a box, you work in a box, you travel in a box. So the box is evident for me that it's a box life. But also, when you have a box, you can cut holes in the box. So we're gonna make windows tonight. We're gonna cut some holes in that box and make some little windows. And when you have window, you can grow. So
Hmm.
if you have a window, you can grow food in your house in the winter, whatever. Or you can also grow as a person when you have a window of opportunity. And I think as a collective, we have a huge one now, a huge opportunity to grow with everything that's going on with the coronavirus. So it's up to us also with another window we're going to talk about to take our willpower and our will to exit that box life.
Hmm.
So I made a few windows. And I said because I was sitting down at my desk, I was looking outside, and I'm like, there's got to be windows, but windows of what? Like we got to determine what are the window and where we're going with that. So I think the pain is one major window that we're gonna cut because pain can make you grow enormously, enormously. Like also, it can put you back in a deep sleep. So we have to. It's always by. I had an accident happening to me. That's why I'm here. It's something woke me up in life, a major trauma, and for me, that was enough to start taking time to think and look at my life and look at the life outside of myself and that box. I started cutting windows through that box. The other one
Hmm.
is willpower. Willpower is a very important one. Remembering who we are. I think we're going to start with this one because Arthur has a lot to say about that, and probably Fiona also. Uh, Perception change. Your perception can change eventually in your life. Like you can grow as a person because I think as you become more mature, you advance in, I want to use the word age so much, but when you advance in time on Earth, there's your perception can change. So if you take the time to look at the and change your just the perception you have about certain things in life, it can create a shift within you. So Arthur, I'm gonna let you a bit go on with this with Fiona about the especially for sure the perception change, but the remembrance window, I think we can call it. It's not so bad of a thing to call it like that. So
Hmm.
you.
Hmm. Well, I should firstly point out we're actually in a camper trailer. This is how we've been living. And if you hear any background noises or dogs or anything going on, it's just because it's the nature. We're sort of living outside for the last year and a half, and it um, can be picked up a lot through what we do. So we apologise if we start hearing dogs barking or kids coming in and out because the microphone is right next to the entranceway here. So um, anyway, yeah. So going back from last week's the Cult of Hoops, duality of the Cult of Hoops, and remembering who we are, and it's here in remembering who we are where all the pain is, where all our suffering is too, because when we're brought up by nature with no one inside our heads defining anything, so there are no pictures in our heads created by others who put them in our heads, other men and women. Well, all we have are the dreams we are creating through our senses or through senses. When I say our senses, we don't own any senses. The senses are undefined. They just exist as part of reality. And it was gifted to us through our ancestors of life, because it's life that is our senses, that we sense life with. So when we are brought up by senses, and if you remember those pictures, that everything's pointing at us from reality all around us. We are just forming dreams through our senses, through the elation, the inspiration, excitation, the contemplation, the observation, all these things we do as kids, as we play and explore reality. That's nature, not televisions and iPod computers and homes and all that. I'm talking about being brought up by nature, with amongst animals and bears and wolves. The sensory information is our true consciousness. And when we allow these dreams to inspire us, we form dreams unique to us. And it's in these dreams that we form, it's like building a hard drive of information that is our life. And that is our soul. But when we get involved by introducing other dreams to us, to our children, we not only have the dreams that we are creating, we're now getting infiltrated with, it's like a distraction, like a ghetto blaster. It's like having many different conversations going on in our heads now of different people telling us how to think and feel and about life and what we're sensing, because we're always sensing. The breathing is sensing, hearing is sensing. So we're always breathing. So we're always sensing. The difficulty we have in the system is that we've practiced 24/7 since we appeared in the womb, recalling explanations, definitions, images that are not our dreams. It's like an occupying force inside us now by a lot of people who think they're doing the right thing by helping, because they believe we must be educated, believing that we must do these things. Otherwise, they're failures as parents, they're failures as good citizens and teachers, and they're failures as politicians and all these things. But actually, they already are the failures. We're all the failures when we do this, because we're corrupting the essence of life, who we are. The big picture of remembering who we are comes out of the natural hard drive of our soul that's undefined of our dreams. And if we are entertained in the dreams that we are playing in, there is no confusion. There's no distraction. There's no fear, no doubt, no uncertainty. There's nothing of system life going on in our heads. But we've been brought up with all this stuff, all this inculcation. And we're saying we have to remember who we are. So we've got to get past every single dream that's going on that we've been calling out 24/7. Time to go to bed. You got time for breakfast. Now you got to get your clothes on. Look, there are just so many things going on that start from so young. And we are calling out all these dreams that are not our dreams, including the name. So all the emotion, yeah.
Can I suggest something? Because that's very important, and that came to me not long ago, the dream. Because I told you before on certain shows, I said I have a dream is becoming a motivational speaker. And I was saying that, one day I realized that the most important day of my life was not for me when I realized that I wanted to become a motivational speaker. The most important day is when I realized that dream didn't matter. Didn't matter. So I let go at one point, because it's all within the system. No matter what dream I'm going to have, probably comes from another man's thought or so not genuine to me. So that came to me that day that I realized it didn't matter was the most
good on you
day of my life.
Because a big part of remembering who we are is in the letting go. Yeah. And it's something that you can't define for somebody else what it is to let go of, because we're all different. There's no one shoe fits all for each of us in following a working model of what it is to let go, as in remembering who we are that causes that letting go to happen. So the thing about remembering who we are, while we are amongst the system, being brought up in it, is all this chit-chat going on in our heads that is not who we are. That none of it is who we are. So we've got to be able to step aside from that, step aside these boxes, which we talked about last week, get outside of these hoops that we're jumping through all the time. So we're not in the cult of the box or whatever box we are stuck in at any given time. We need to become conscious of what we're sensing, that are the dreams we are creating, that is who we are, and not allow other dreams that we've been playing off with so often from so young. Now, look, it gets into things like age. Oh, I'm 62. I'm going to be 63. I was born in August. You've got minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years. Yeah, that plays off all day, every day too. Then we're told, oh, I'm a Leo, and the sun is this and the Pisces. That's all playing off in people's heads. Then you've got numerology. Then you've got your interest with football and the conversations in football, or the conversations about your career and your studies, or look, the extended conversations. And this gets into home life and the way we live at home, and having a home, having security, and wanting to do developments and investments and making money. And look, it's just those conversations are chronic. We are so, it's like we said in the last week's show, the pixelations on the screen are coming at us constantly, and none of it is who we are. And to remember who we are, you've got to be able to sense that, which has got nothing to do with any of this in your head. The other thing about this that can be exploited in this chat today or in the next one is the trauma that comes with this information that are not our dreams. That I sort of touched on about the alphabets last week, and then the ritual sacrifice, and how all these emotions, all this ego are pictures, images that we've attached to, and we're playing off with it from so young. And we form this life out of it. And we become so bonded to it that we think this is who we are, not realizing that the people who created these images, all their intentions, all their emotions, come with the words that we call out and speak and talk. So we have all this trauma. And we've had various friends, and this is Fee will talk about this because she's had a lot of experience with this. We've had various friends who just keep forgetting who they are. They keep complaining about their situations. They keep pointing their finger at all kinds of scenarios, somehow thinking that if they change this and change that, it's going to improve. But nothing will change. Nothing will improve for them because they haven't been able to step back enough to look at the bigger picture. I mean, I'll let you.
Well, I was just thinking, sitting here, the remembering who we are is also very connected to the window of pain. And I wasn't thinking so much physical pain, which I think you're referring to. I was thinking more the emotional pain that people start experiencing when they start trying to let go of all that personality they've developed, that is the system stuff, because they actually really feel that that is who they are. And they have developed ways of survival that they really think is who they really are. And so to start trying to let go of some, if you can recognize that those patterns are not natural, they're things that you've learned, that you've been brainwashed into, you have to start letting go. But when you actually have grown up all the time with the belief that this is who you are, it's incredibly painful to start to let it go, or it can be, because it actually feels like you're dying in a way. It's suddenly like, well, who am I then if I'm not all these things? What am I? Am I anything? Is there anything left of me? What is that? Or is it all a sham? And this is where the willpower comes in, is that, are you actually brave enough to keep taking those steps forward? Are you actually brave enough to have a look at at all the ups and downs of your personality? And that includes looking at the darkness of your personality. We all have a lot of darkness hidden underneath all our nice exteriors, and it's being able to actually face that and acknowledge it for what it is, because once you do that, then you can actually begin to let it go and move on. But so many people we come across, they are not actually brave. They get to this point, but then to take those other steps that actually lead them to really looking their darkness in the face and seeing what it's made up of, how it controls them, how it manipulates others, how it plays out with everything in their lives. and then they can begin to let it go. But so many people, they cannot experience that, what feels like pain. It's not real pain, it's all imagined, because it's all just emotional reaction. But it's being and that's what feeling like the pain is. You know, open it. If you want to open that window, it feels really painful, because you actually, it's the death of the ego as much as anything. It's because you're slaying everything about you that is fake. And sometimes it's very scary, because you think, well, if I'm not that fake person, what is there left? What is there underneath? And that's what you got to have the patience to then start trying to build up. Well, what are my dreams? What is it that really inspires me? And so what steps can I start taking towards that?
Is I would like to just add, okay, I was just going to say, who we really are is not this vessel. Like, we don't end at the surface of our skin. Who we are is the whole dream of life, because that's what we're gifted with. That's godlike in that way. But we are so trapped in the box of who we are under the surface of our skin, and with all the emotions, all that unnatural information that taught us to practice fear and doubt and uncertainty and confusion, distraction, we become so bonded in playing out. If we had these two Barbie dolls in my hand, conscious Ken and conscious Barbie, we grow up just like that. We play out roles of fantasy through fake personas in our imagining, in our head, because Ken and Barbie's in our head. They're just pictures we've formed imaginary play with, and we grow up. And when we allow everything to be defined, we'll have mum and dad as dolls, and brothers and sisters as dolls, and siblings and other friends as dolls. And it goes into school, and it goes into, you know, daycare and preschool, and it goes into every facet of life, where we are actually performing the rituals of these fantasies. And we somehow truly believe that the emotions we are experiencing as we play out, because the ego plays it out, the Ken and Barbie's played out with another man, because it needs an audience. The ego needs an audience, you know, it's an audience thing. And where who we really are needs no audience, needs nothing, because we already are. We already exist. You follow? So the struggle, the battle, is to overcome the fear, the doubt, the insecurity of this fantasy, believing that if we let it go, we're going to die, like Fiona was saying. But we actually don't die. We're actually going to get our real freedom back, our real lives back.
And it's this fear of the letting go that leads so many people to keep looking around at something else to fix their lives. So it's like, oh, if I change my job, I'll be happier. If I get a new relationship, I'll be happy. If I just go traveling, I'll be happier. And so they end up running from one thing to the next all their lives, because they find their new thing. They have a honeymoon period where they love it. They love the people they work with. They love their new job. They love this, they love that. And then the reality kicks in, because they have brought all their baggage with them, because they haven't let it go. So the same old scenarios start playing out, the same old pictures happen. And so, they're bored of that. They jump to the next thing. Honeymoon period, we love it, it's great, it's great. And then falls apart, and they keep running. And some people run the whole of their lives, from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, because they cannot turn around and face what is stopping them actually creating the real happiness in their lives here and now, whatever their situation.
And
They're besotted.
pretty much everything I have experienced here on Earth was to suffocate that emotional pain that I wasn't perceiving. So alcohol, drugs, all this, you can name it all. Going to the movies, going to a concert, going to a hockey game, going to everything that I have experienced probably in my life was to suffocate the pain. Without great success, but
yeah, because the pixelation of these fantasies are so constant. There's so many. Look, all the libraries made up of all the letters and words is in our head, because we've been exposed to just so much fantasy, because it's all definition, because definition is fantasy. So, and we've projected this fantasy into the domain because life is a domain. Like we're supposed to have a natural domain. It's undefined, the domain, but we're now in a defined domain that we call a suburb, and number 7 or number 9, so what street and road and suburb and town and city, and then nationality and ethnicity and all these things come into it. And we get so caught up in the revolution that we just keep doing this, that we don't know what else there is. And we find it almost, for many of us, impossible to step aside from that, right? And so if we don't shatter the pixelation of this fantasy, this matrix in our head, and let it just collapse, we will not experience the true peace and calm of our true lives, with our true dreams, where we are, wherever we may be.
Yeah, it's really important you can, once you've done that, you can find peace and calm, whatever your situation, whatever you're doing. It may not be the situation that you're dreaming for, so you are taking steps to fulfill those dreams, but you can still be peaceful and calm at whatever step you're on right now, because that means you've lost that thing, I'll be happy then, I'll be happy then, I'll be happy then. No, because when you've already experienced the peace and calm in your life right now, whatever's going on around you, you take that peace and calm with you when you move to the next step. So the next step, you still have that peace and calm. And the next step, you still have that peace and calm.
Yeah, that's
because you have learned to get it. And now this is very different from, we always talked previously about the Dalai Lama, find peace within, and then you'll find peace in your surroundings. You got to distinguish between these two, because the one can be a very passive, I'll just accept everything going around you. It's not accept everything going on around you and do nothing about it. It's just being able to be peaceful and calm, even while you can see that there are things that you need to do, there are situations that can be improved, that you can change, and things that need to be changed. But when you're peaceful and calm, you know you've got the power to change things. You know, you can no longer, and this is the biggest thing, we can no longer blame everybody and everything around us for what is going on in our lives, because we truly have created everything that is going on in our lives. We really have. And most people will say yes, yes, yes to that, but then they're still pointing the finger. No, oh, he's the problem, she's the problem, my life's the problem, the job's the problem, the situation's the problem, the money's the problem, this is the problem, which isn't accepting full responsibility for everything they have created.
This comes to say that there's a great blockage that we create, and we see the world as we are. Like we're in the box, but we see the whole world as a box. Like if we're negative, we see the world negative. Like, I think it's to get out that blockage and that box of seeing the world as you are, because it's not it. It's much more.
Well, let's go. It's not just a blockade, it's an embargo, because the blockade is blocked. It's who we truly are, and now we have to pay for water, we have to pay for the apple, we have to pay to breathe, we have to pay where we walk, where we drive. There's an embargo on who we truly are, which is supposed to be true freedom, undefined. So yeah, I like that. You know, it really is a blockade, and and behind it is a massive blockade. The people behind it don't want you to know who you are. They don't want you to remember anything about who you are or what you are. So
no, I want to say something quickly, because the scary part of taking full responsibility is you actually do have to accept. So every situation you have a complaint about, you've actually got to say, but I created that situation in my life. Right. What am I going to do about it? Or what? And that is the huge thing. If every single situation, I mean, there's the odd situation that you cannot stop someone's random desire to come and bash you up in the street or something. I'm not into that. Oh, you created someone bashing you up in the street. But it's like, you know, everything in your life that you've got a complaint about, you have created, because of the way you're thinking, the way you're dreaming, the way you interact with people, all the emotional stuff that goes on with you. And that's what people, so that is part of the pain, because if you realize that, you have to stop complaining. And that's part of that, you'll find. And if you become conscious of that, you'll start to see just how many little complaints pop into your head constantly. Like me this morning, I was complaining because I was cold and I had all these jobs to do, and it was cold and my feet were cold, and you'd really, that's just all emotional shit. I don't have to think like that. I don't have to, I'm responsible for how we're living. I don't have to make complaints about it. It's just, that's how it is, and it's not killing me. It's making me tougher, and I get on with it, you know. It's like,
She had to be confronted.
Oh, not really.
We confront each other all the time, man. Seriously, when Ken and Barbie start appearing in our makeup, we go, we're kind to each other. We really are, mate. But we do, if necessary, we'll go further than that and use a battle axe if we have to smash the.
You can see the
smash,
scars.
to smash the blockade, to break down the embargo.
Because after a lifetime of practice, it is so hard to. No, it's not hard. It's just learning to keep catching those thoughts when they slip into your head, because it can just take one little complaint, and if you keep harboring on that and then let another complaint, suddenly you can go in like 5 minutes from being quite content and happy to pissed off and miserable. And it was only to do with the thoughts in your head that took you one to the other, to the other, to the other, until suddenly you're back wallowing in, like someone we were talking to just yesterday, fine, perfectly good space, blah, blah, blah. Then, oh, but, in half an hour, or 5 minutes, 15 minutes, she's in a miserable place.
Ken and Barbie, mate.
Because she started
conscious
on
Ken,
the...
conscious Barbie. And it's all been played out in the head, because the ego, where all this emotion is coming from, is played out with them in themselves and with others, because the complaint has to involve someone else, something else. Where when we are truly brought up through our senses, there's nothing to play off with anything, because we are present all the time with the consciousness of our good heart. See, when we talk about the consciousness of good heart, the original dream of life has information embodied in it. Every dream has a creator. Everything has intelligence behind it. And that intelligence, that's life, is what is the legacy of all of life that's passed it on to us and gifted us that inheritance, that life. And we're meant to add to that magnificence and pass it on, even more magnificent, to our children. But we do the opposite now, where we're now lost in the storytelling of people's intentions that harbor malevolent intent to control us through breaking our will. Because the whole purpose of the system is to control us, have power and control, because it's a covert system of slavery. So the subtle methods of what we call mind control, brain control, comes with emotion. The motions being the intentions of those occupying forces that formed the blockade of our childhood and put in place the embargoes, because they gave us rules, regulations, rituals, procedures, conditions, contracts. They gave us concepts of constitution and government and concepts of first and last, rich and poor, land ownership, and it goes on. All these things you would never learn from nature. Nature will not teach us any of this stuff. So this pain, this battle, remembering who you are, is to confront the nightmare of what we have practiced in bringing forward Ken and Barbie, conscious Ken and Barbie. You know, like when you go to court and someone calls out Fiona Cristian, and she pulls up a Barbie and says, yeah, this is Fiona Cristian here. I'm coming. Please come forward. And so she's acting as on behalf of conscious Barbie, or in this case, conscious Fiona. And it plays out. Now, your driver's license is the same thing. Your birth certificate, all these things of the system is this, because it's not who you are. This information that's been forced on us that we had to take on and remember and recall, and we call out. And what we call out, we are creating. Because see, everything, we have free will, and free will is absolute. It's God. We are the true power. But because we have manifested a dumbed down state, psychotic state, we have now withdrawn from the true power of our creation, of that magnificence, into creating, oh my God, the mess, the stuff that Fiona and I are touching, what we're all touching on. And it's only because others have tried to get into our heads to control how we're thinking. But more than that, manipulate us through what we're feeling. So the emotions are not our dreams. They're not going to help us remember who we are. So every single emotion that we can think of, like loneliness, misery, unhappiness, despair, jealousy, envy, greed,
righteousness,
anger,
righteousness,
arrogance, ignorance, indifference. Look, there's so many of them. these are not our dreams, and we will never remember who we are when these emotions are influencing us, like distrust.
And these it's also we can look at ourselves every time you experience a reaction to someone. You can look at yourself and go, hang on a minute, that's an emotional response in me. Why am I responding? Like everyone goes, oh God, they're so annoying, they do this, this, and this, and that, you know, oh, they're really bugging me because they did this, or they're trying to do this and this, and I'm pissed off about it, it's like, that's our problem. Our emotional reaction to them shows us that we're still got a long way to go, because we're still getting caught up in that emotional pattern of playing off one against the other. I'm annoyed because she did this, and that comes out of the righteousness. I said righteousness because we get so righteous and judgmental about everyone around us. Oh, she shouldn't be doing that, and he shouldn't be doing this, and they shouldn't this and that and the other. And yet most of the time we don't follow those rules that we make up for other people. We don't follow them ourselves anyway. So it's a real, hypocrisy as well as righteousness and arrogance. And so anytime you feel an emotional reaction coming up, you got to stop and go, hang on a minute. Why am I reacting? That's not my peace and calm. Why am I allowing myself to get pulled into the drama of the back and forth, the duality, the good? I think there's many people out there who think they have woken up, but really, if they were honest and looked at themselves, they'd still find they were actually still very controlled by the to and fro of the emotional stuff going on.
Yeah, which is scripts of scriptures, because the whole language is what we touched on last week about, is like an emotion. We are recalling, we are reacting a script that we've practiced previously, a pattern that was defined for us, that was delivered through the alphabet languages as a payload that came into us as innocent kids, but we were not given full disclosure about all this emotional scripting.
Yeah, it's like
that would play out. Yeah, that would play out between us, because see, our ancestors pre this invasion, they came from paradise. There were no kings or queens. There were no leaders that way. There were no one to follow. Because every man was a true God, right? Meaning full responsibility for everything we think, feel, and do. It was no coveting or ego and glorifying who we are in that way and self-aggrandizement. None of that was going on, because there was no persona to recall. We didn't have another person to act on behalf of. We were the tree, we were the bird, we were the leaves. And because our consciousness is all around us, there's no I, me, my there. Because we're too busy in the dream being who we really are as true creators. See, so these people had to break this down, had to shatter this consciousness and get us caught up in our bickering within ourselves and within each other, with our doubt and uncertainty, because then we need them to come in, provide order to this chaos that was engineered. Because all this is engineered chaos that provides with order. And this is what a Supreme Court judge told Fiona, which, you should explain. This was actually admitted by a Supreme Court judge. The man is the highest power, but that we subjugate who we are under the law to have order. But when you understand what subjugation means and how much inculcation, indoctrination was done to each of us to accept the authority, the author of rights, because authority are just rights, R-I-T-E-S, and R-I-G-H-T-S, and W-R-I-T-E-S, because all three of them play out.
But what he's really saying as well, saying that, is saying you actually do have a choice. If he's saying that man subjugates himself under the law, which were his exact words, then he's showing you that you've actually got a choice about that. You can choose not to subjugate yourself under the law.
Look, taxation is voluntary. Everything of the system is voluntary because you have free will. But they will do everything they can to intimidate you. They will do everything to ridicule you, cause character assassination, do anything to bring you down under the cult of the occult's pressure, peer pressure of those around you. And so you get that admonishment. You get that, it's not when you're ostracized from the cult. You're a bad boy. Now, the emotions is just Roman law. I said last week about how the coronavirus, there wouldn't be if there was an internet. Well, the Roman law without the Roman law, there would be no of this stuff going on. There'd be no emotions played out, because the basis of Roman law, civil law, is to control us through the regulations, rituals, procedures, conditions, contracts that we have been defined into. Now, we're not doing any harm. You could be journeying on your, in the system now. You can journey in your car. You're not caused an accident, not injured anybody. You've not committed a crime. You're not broken the peace. Yet you could end up with a $5,000 fine just because you happened to be speeding. Yet nothing happened. No one was injured. Now, these statute fines that come out of Roman law are coming at us in multiple ways. And so there's a large revenue raising of money where people have not done any harm to anybody. And you've got to remember that money is just our fruits of labor. And the revenue raising, because our sense of self-worth, our value of our labor is based on the commercial values of who we are in the system, and whatever equity and assets and whatever savings we built up of money. So they siphon your fruits of labor, and they'll call it fines, bills, interest rates, mortgage fees. It comes in 1,001 ways, this stuff. And the purpose is to keep you so broken down without no natural follow through of all your labor that provides certainty with your life. So you have a roof over your head, food and water on the table, because it's all about food, water, shelter. You see, so Roman law, that civil law, the basis is really Ken and Barbie being played out in your head, with everyone else playing out the roles in everyone else's head, acting as judge and police officer. But all these are fantasies that we've practiced from childhood, that we are hooded under the black magic of this stuff, you see. So without the emotions, there'd be no Roman law. But without Roman law, there'd be no emotions, because 99% of the population of Australians, same as Canadians, Americans, are being fleeced of all their fruits of labor for a fantasy given to the tiny few who believe they have power and control over everybody. So it has been stolen from you, but we use our free will because we are God-like. We willingly subject their authority, their rights, practicing those rights over us, who we are. So it's the same as people who do not want to break away from the trauma of their complaints.
That's
and
what I'm gonna come up with. I'm like, okay, there's that box, so everything we know is in that box. The ego is in that box, and if you're not willing to break out that box, at least to take a little step forward, you're always gonna get stuck in there. And even me telling you that, or Arthur, or Fiona, or whoever telling you, you have to remember who you are. It goes like in the wind, like it doesn't mean anything to you because you're in that box. Your ego knows who you are. So how do you break free for someone that has no coaching, nobody around? Like, can you, by suddenly major willpower, break out of that box and remember who you are? Because also,
well, that is it. It's willpower. The other window you wanted to talk about. It's
Yeah.
only willpower that can do it. Even if you have us talking to you for hours about this, it's only your willpower that's going to do it. If you don't have the willpower to make it happen, it won't happen.
Look, when I go out in the garden and I'm working on a bit of soil, I'm working on a bit of soil that's part of a bigger dream of a garden bed to grow food. That's part of a bigger dream of the true life of the man reclaiming that responsibility and not giving it away to others, where I have to go to the shops, which is I've got to go to work, I've got to make money, which makes me a commercial slave, to have access to everything where this embargo has been played out, right? With this blockade of because we are in a blockade of land title deeds, where everything is blocked off everywhere, and you don't have that true freedom. Because we were all originally, going right back, we would have been free nomadic tribes. They had none of this stuff going on. So when I'm working with the soil, I have a big picture of the kingdom dream. So everything I do is for the kingdom dream. But because I have a partner and I have children and I have other friends I care about, they're in the kingdom dream. So while I work in the soil and I do this, or I work on the computer and I use the system as part of my way breaking out of the system, everything is going to the bigger dream that I'm feeding with my life energy. See, I know who I am. I remember who I am, and I know exactly what I'm doing, and I can see what's what. So I don't let what's what get in the way of undermining the big dream that I was gifted with before I even appeared in the womb, in terms of, system talk here. So unless we have a big picture and we can see the connections that support it, so that basically anything comes along that could take me away from supporting that dream, I'm going to say no. Or I will argue and stand up and confront to help others realize what is going on here. Because we can so easily give up the big dream and don't even be conscious that we've done it.
Often because of the little details that happen in the day-to-day, everything of stepping closer to that big dream, that it's the complaints about the everyday details of the steps towards the bigger dream that cause people to give it up.
Yeah,
they think they have that dream, they love it, it's beautiful, but I don't feel like working in the garden today. I've had to go to work because we're not yet free on land. So they give it up because they can't cope with the day-to-day
which
steps.
means they've got a broken will. Their will is still broken, and they don't even know who they are, even though they're pretending they think they know who they are. They don't, because it's all borrowed. They're in a borrowed life of a borrowed consciousness and borrowed everything. I know you want to. Okay.
Remembering who you are also involves remembering what to do with your body. Like that's the other thing that we have.
Yeah. But
my dog knows what to do instinctively, but us, we have been so programmed and brainwashed and brought into cults and stuff. We don't even know what to eat. We eat.
Yeah, it's true, but
it's crazy.
The confusion of all the pixelations are so powerful because we've become addicted to recalling them over and over again, recreating these unnatural domains that we operate out of. But the thing is that unless we are conscious of the bigger dream, we will not be able to break away at all. Because the thing is that I don't know, for this man, I don't claim exclusivity or privilege over what I'm saying here. It's just simply this man knows what this man is. You see, I don't have any fear of death over this life. It doesn't matter if this man was 20 stone or 15 stone or 10 stone. It means nothing. Because the sacrifice this man made in the small details, like to work on the internet, like 16-hour days, 7 days a week, to deal with processing so much shit of so many people, I did it because I wanted to know the truth. I wanted to learn. I wanted to test everything out. I wanted to use scrutiny. I wanted to argue everything. I wanted to work it out so that I could navigate and dot the truth right through so I could see a clearer picture of what the big picture was, because then I could see how our ancestors fell to this situation we are in through the generations and work out what we've got to do to get back there quickly. See, so though I can only talk through this man's experience, regardless of the suffering, regardless of whatever physical stresses this man's been put through, I've done it. I'm not a victim to that. I willingly did it. Right? So it's not about having the perfect body. It's about the intention to break away from this lie and not allow the lie to rule us. Because when you know who you are, you do not die. You see, I keep saying to Fiona and others, I have eternal life in front of me. I don't, what people think I'm going to miss out on, I'm not missing out on anything. Because it's there before forever. It's a natural inheritance that's beyond time and space, occultic constructs and concepts. So unless we can overcome this self-obsession with the lie, which is the fear that we fight underneath the surface of our skin, we will diminish our ability to overpower the lie and conquer it and defeat it, you see. So it is willpower, but it's having the smarts. But to have those smarts, you must not have any fear of death. You must have no fear or any doubt of loss or fear of loss, and prepared to go all the way with anything to make the dream come true that returns us to the true original way of life that the good heart radiates without no embargo, without no blockades, here. I like that. That's very good.
Yeah.
So
it's the willpower to open that window.
You've got to have a bigger picture, man. You've got to have the willpower to get the bigger picture, which is undefined. So we could paint it out, but that's not going to be the big picture for you or anyone. You've got to work it out. The only reason why we do the Love for Life work and the battles we've had between us, the stresses that we've carried between us in dealing with an opposition out there who does not want us to do the kingdom dream, who did everything to dismantle the kingdom garden that we created as an example of our propaganda. Hey, you could produce 1.5 ton of food plus more and 1/16 of an acre on a rental property and give it away most while we're feeding us, whatever we were doing in this propaganda. It pissed a lot of people off, or the right people, which brought them back. So if you go to our website, you can see they closed Fiona's PayPal account. Why? Because gifts were coming to Fiona to support this kingdom dream that we stand for, live for. So they had to undermine that. They had to undermine people within kingdom groups that we were creating, try and make out that I'm some cult leader, right? So you have people out there acting as commentators, twisting things, and people who are vulnerable to this kind of manipulation being got at. That we didn't care about any of this, because what you see, we need to be really strong people, stronger than all of this. We can get past all this, because if we don't get past all this, we're not going to be able to break away from this manipulation that's constantly being thrown at us. Now, there's something I just posted on the Facebook wall today, which is part of this thing, is that this woman called Karen Brewer. Now, for this man, anyone who knows about Karen Brewer, she's an Australian who's been exposing the Freemasonic world and how the systems work, and she's just no different to David Icke and just so many others out there who've been exposing the truth. But there's a bigger picture behind all this. This is what this man does in helping people get to the small detail and see it for what it is. Because if you don't see it, you won't see the bigger picture, which has been kept in secrecy from you because you're not given full disclosure of these people's intentions. Why are they exposing the truth about Freemasonry, the truth behind Christianity, the truth behind everything, where disclosure is now coming forward with these amazing champions revealing the truth of all these things that we've all been subjected to and through our ancestors, right, who were slaves to these lies that we're all seeing before our eyes today. The thing is this, is that Karen Brewer and others like that do not have a remedy that gets us all out of the system of this stuff in this life. They have nothing. David Icke hasn't got one, right? Michael Telliger does not have one. And we can mention thousands of names. They do not have one because there's a reason why. The reason is they want us to default to the system that's going to, another version of it's going to look better. So basically going to get the sheeple to go from one enclosure manipulated by all the bad guys, which is Ken and Barbie in our heads playing out all the dramas. And Fiona, we're talking about some of the people that we know closely, all these dramas. We have all the bad guys creating all the problems, going right back through this before the invasions began, where all this started. And then we have all the good guys coming along to expose the bad guys and see that they're like the great Knights, Templars, Crusaders coming in to rescue everybody from the bad guys. But people don't see that both the bad guys and the good guys are all coming from the same orders. They're all under the same order, following the instructions within these occultic things. So you're going to have all these people wanting change because everything's shit. Everyone knows it's shit, but they've got no alternative to get completely away from all of it, to return back to our true way of life, pre-invasion. So all that is left is people not practicing 24/7 true freedom skills. You have nearly everybody spoon-fed, living as spoon-fed slaves. And so what Karen Brewer is going to offer, and everyone else involved in all of this, will be an improvement on the slave conditions. But everyone will still be in the system, subjected to others who will be authorities over them. And it'll be made to look like as if they're there to protect us all. When we don't need any protection. We just say, out. Get out of our heads. Get out of our lives. You don't control the domains of our dreams. You control the domains of nature, of our food, water, and shelter. You see, so they're going to bring in a federation of all good guys which is just another enclosure where the sheep will be moved from one enclosure of bad guys, pushed through to another enclosure surrounded by good guys, and it's going to sound wonderful. But you still do not have your dreams. You still have to be educated. Your children still have to be subjected to all the brutality. And because it's duality, it's all duality. All the bad still comes with the good regardless. So those B-52 bombers I was telling you about in last week's show, we're going to keep dropping the payloads and destroy everything around us. And nothing will truly change, right? So what I'm trying to say, to remember who you are, you've got to have the wits and see what really is going on and how the manipulation works. And if you don't see the tiny details of this cunning and guile, you'll be just like 99% of the population, all in uprising for change. But they've got no experience about freedom. They don't know what freedom is because they're all spoon-fed slaves. They practice it 24/7 up to the change. So how can they change to be truly free when they don't even know what that is?
I think it starts a lot with our perception, changing the way we see things, changing the way we and that's something I've seen. It's very easy to keep people in the box, especially when it's like when they play their ritual in plain sight. I saw the 2012 opening ceremony on YouTube. I've never really seen it. I don't watch TV, but I saw it and I'm like, wow, this is pure programming. But that's for sure. The way they see it, people in the stand and on TV do not see it as an evil ritual. So our perception, luck, and we don't even see, because of our faulty perception, we don't even see that the man or the woman constructing the box for us is in disguise. So
exactly, because that's duality again being played out, which we touched on in last week's show. Unless we can see the duality playing out, we will not be able to extricate our real lives from this scam, these psyops. So you've got to be able to see the bigger picture by scrutinizing all the small detail. So, okay, to Karen Brewer. Karen, great. You're exposing Freemasonry for what it is. Great. You have all these other people pointing to your work. Great. What's the remedy that stops all this? What brings back the remedy where every man is not underneath another man ever again, where no man is answerable to another man unless a man has actually intentionally done harm to another man, real harm, right? Because then you're answerable to that tribe, that community, that family, and sort that out. Now, what is the remedy they have on offer? Because our focus should be on the remedy that changes all of this, where we walk away from it and never look back. But they don't talk about this remedy. You see, we talk about the kingdom remedy, the KINDOM. It's not, we don't own it. It's just a word. It plays out in the duality of the system. But if you sense our intentions, we're just talking about our brothers and sisters out there all having true freedom, peace, joy, abundance amongst food, water, shelter that is not compromised. There's no embargo. There's no blockades, right? And the full true autonomy of their lives is in place, and it never has to be siphoned to give it away to a landlord or a land baron or some federation who's got to be there to protect you and your family from the bad guys. Because that's how this psyop and the order will play out. Because that's what feudalism and nominalism is. It's just strong willpower of men working together with the intention to dominate all of us and subjugate us as subjects to their whims of what they want from us. You see, so we've come from overt slavery to covert slavery, and we've got to break away from both covert and overt slavery completely, which means we've got to fix it in here. And the perception must be able to sense the bigger picture. So you can see the tiny details. And if we support this and this, oh, that's going to lead us back to that. We don't want that. If we do this and this then sets us free from all of this and it doesn't get repeated again. So you've got to be really switched on in the scrutiny. Because that's why we, particularly this man, have been so attacked. They haven't killed this man. Because that just validates what this man's been talking about since we started the Love for Life Insight work. But this is not about glorifying us or this man. It's simply to know who you are. You've got to realize what you're dealing with here. And how much effort have these people put in to be in your head all the time? To be in your head of every one of your kids and all your brothers and sisters and all your wider families and all your wider community. How much intensity has been involved to be inside their heads 24/7 and practice this covert slavery, their dependency on their order through the chaos of us giving up responsibility for our real lives, where we now have the water coming through pipes. We have to have a meter on them to pay for it, where we have to go to the shops to get fruit and vegetables that are compromised, and on it goes. Now, we all know where this is all heading. Now, to end all this, we must go back to full responsibility for everything we think, feel, and do, where the true autonomy is with each man, because we're God, meaning full responsibility. It doesn't mean we're better, greater, more higher than anyone else. We're just equal partners in life, sharing life. So anything that stops that is what we've been doing, and exposing as those little tiny details where the devil's operating, right? And that's what you're doing. These are my words, but that's what I'm assuming you're doing, because that's what your motive is. And there are many of us who don't want to support this anymore. So remembering who you are is to get past the pain of the fear of loss, the fear of death, to get past all this, because then we truly are amazing what we can do.
Would you say that it's important also, if we're willing to cut some windows into our box, to have screen in our window so we can filter what's coming in now? Because I've never had screen in my windows. I think even if I had some little tiny window, and all kinds of nonsense and propaganda was getting into me. So I think I look at my window here and there's a screen. So it must be for a reason, to filter what's coming in, your home, your heart.
Well, that's your brain, that's your willpower. That's actually using your brain to be able to step aside and look at what you're thinking. Look at what is happening in your body.
And look at the long-term result of, like, there's lots of people. So you suddenly become interested in freedom. You want to open the box to look for freedom, or cut open the window. But as you're right, there's so much nonsense about it out there.
Oops, a little bit frozen. We are frozen now. But anyway, yeah, cutting a window, making a window in the box and having a screen, I think it's important. That's what Fiona was going to talk to us about. But right now, they are frozen in time. They should come back. We will be patient, and we will wait for Arthur and Fiona to come back. I think they left. They might be relogging. And I'm sorry for the green screen effect. I have a little green screen effect tonight, but I will be fixing it. I found a way, just I have to. There's too much light hitting in my camera and the lens of the camera. So it's making the thing blurry a bit, and it's making me without air and stuff. So. But I will work on it to make it better. Yes. So yeah, I think there's those major windows, maybe 4 windows: pain and time growth. Pain and time, I think, could be together. Perception change. What the other one we said? Willpower. And I think the last one I marked before. But yeah, perception, time. Time can be just one on itself too. So Arthur and they're back. They're back. Hold on. Boom! Alive and alive.
We're back.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Can't see us.
I hear you.
Can you see us?
Nope. No video feed.
There we are.
Oh, we're back. Yeah, because the line just dropped out. What happens? We had to use we're on wireless. We don't have any landline, so wireless can drop in and out through Optus or through Telstra. So we just chop and change. So if it does happen, we're now using the hotspot on the mobile phone to continue the chat. We were using a wireless netcom router before that through the Optus 4G network. These things happen, so it could be just stuff happens with technology. It could also be interference, but we don't know which is which. But do you get what?
Well, I was thinking about the pain. You wanted to talk about pain.
I just wanted to I hope I lose my train of thought. We got to know who we really are, which means we've got to recognize the dreams that are not our dreams, and we stop entertaining them, right? Because that means every letter, every alphabet, everything in our heads. If you stop and listen to the conversation in your head, and you know it's alphabets, you know these are not our dreams, and because we placed our fake Ken conscious Ken with it, we think that's who we are. And so we drift aimlessly in a dream world where we're completely disconnected from reality, lost in pure fantasy. And that has to be confronted so that you can face the devil, the monster, because behind these images is just a man inside a head. Like I said last week, duality is just a man inside your head. The shadow is just another man's intention seeking to covet you so that you can't sense your true life, your true dream, and instead you worship the shadows of all this imagery in our heads that we recall,
It keeps
right? And so
your video is lagging, like it's cutting when you talk. I think
Yours is as well.
signal's getting weaker. If you want, we can end this one there and just start again where we are with the pain window. And I want to talk also a little bit more about the perception change, changing our perception, the way we see things. And maybe you'll have a better Wi-Fi.
I'm going to change the I'll just go back to the original network to see if it worked, because we don't have high speed here, Johnny. We don't have any of that. So it's last week we did all right. We didn't have much interference with this one. I'll go back to this one and see if it will improve. All right, we're now back on the netcom and through the Optus, and there's a signal showing that's stronger. Can you hear us? This is.
Well, you've actually been chopping in and out a little bit too. Sometimes when you talk.
But that could be coming through the bandwidth.
Yeah, it could be fine on your thing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. We can cut all this out when we put these up on the net.
Is it the video on your side? That's fine.
What we could do, if you want to go and check, the girls aren't using the internet for anything.
Well, they probably are. They're doing homework.
Well, can you ask them to drop off just for another half an hour?
Okay.
Please? Because that will be interfering. That'll be sucking off the, they'll have to use their own hotspot.
But we'll have to be half an hour because they need it.
I know. We're just going to check because it could be others using the net.
Yeah, sometimes if it takes too much of the bandwidth. But no,
that's a good thing about this.
Few more things to say also. Another major windows we have in these times is the computer. And I'm using Windows from Microsoft to navigate to on the internet. So that's been a major window for me. The computer was the internet, but most of us do not use it as a window for change. We use it as a window for enslavement, and even more enslavement. So there's that thing too. I think we can explore this side of the box.
Yeah. So unless we can step outside of all these boxes, and through our senses can see the bigger picture, we will not be able to use the system as steps to get out of the system in this life. We actually continue supporting our enslavement, regardless of our sentiments, good heart sentiments for peace and freedom. It'll never come to fruition because we're allowing all these other dreams that eat away at the main dream that we're holding. You see, so this is why I was going back before. You've got to know your dream so that when I'm working with the soil, when I'm working with the tool, when I'm working with the garden bed, when I'm working with other people, whether I'm working with you or now, whether I'm working on it all supports the big dream that I'm holding and live for. So everything flows to that, to empower it and give it more energy. But if we're not conscious of this, then the little things we get sucked into become the holes in the bucket that allow the life energy to drip out of the main dream that we're holding. So it becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. And that soullessness is what we are in. That's what the system is. So the darkness, those B-52 bombers, is just our falling away from holding the big dream of life, allowing others to take over our vessel to use and abuse, rape, pillage, and plunder. So the internet is this, Joni. Everything of the system is this. So unless we can step back to a bigger picture where none of this stuff is influencing our dreams, we won't be able to walk in to the system and use it to support the bigger dream, right? So what this man says, I'm in it, but I'm not of it. I'm not of it because I have a bigger dream. So everything, when I open my mouth, when I wake, everything I do, regardless of the physical state, it supports the dream that this man lives for. So it's uncorrupted. And because of intention, there is no way to corrupt it. And in fact, no matter what this man does, no matter anyone else does towards it, it supports this dream, because this is how this man holds it. So as we each do this in our unique way, we can deal with the darkness, work with the darkness, knowing the intention is to let it go in this life so we don't pass like a baton in a relay to the next generation. So we've got to show the current generations, including all our children and all that, how we do it, so that we can show with confidence a way out. It's just the lack of confidence why friends get stuck in the loops, repeating the same issues that Fiona was addressing earlier in this chat. You see, so
the problem is that we raise our children these days. We raise. It's something you use to cut hay or something, like when you cut some, like raising, like it's like a razor. You use a razor to shave your face. Or yeah, I raise my kid. Like just that word to me is so weird, and so many people use it.
Yeah, but it still comes back to intention, regardless of the words. If we are conscious of the bigger picture, then we don't give power to the words that we use to communicate our intention, because our intention is what overrides and dominates everything, because it comes from the bigger dream of who we are and what we are. You see, so if your life is about surviving, money, mortgages, then you don't have a big dream, and everything is being borrowed by those who gave you these dreams, and so all your life energy goes back to feed it. They just give you some just to keep you going, but they'll never let you have enough, because that means you become too powerful and you want to break away from their hold over you. Well, that's what the whole system is about. So, you know, you've seen for the last 3 years of the situation with Jabba. You know, there's a classic example of this, where you have someone acting as a commentator, say Arthur is like this is Arthur's like that, or when Fiona's in a cult, that Arthur's a cult leader, and Hannah's a cult. You got to get it that he has never been here. He's never been involved, physically involved, but he acts as if he has grievance over something he's never done. Like we've never injured him, we've never stolen from him, because he's never done anything to put anything in. You see, if we don't wake up to the bigger picture, we won't know who we are. And in that, of what we don't know who we are, the jabbers will manipulate through commentary and change the perception that you talk about into something that has nothing to do with this man's intention, as to why this man confronts, why this man will sometimes grab Fiona and shake her because of the trauma. So, because it's the only thing I know. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm right, or that I'm perfect, or that I'm evil. It's simply, I know trauma. I know how powerful trauma is, and how people get so stuck because they forget the bigger dream. They forget it. And those who say they're committed, just bear with me, those who say they're committed to this kingdom dream, I'm also responsible from that bigger picture to make sure that none of that stuff comes in to that dream. So I have to confront it like an immune system that will not allow any harm of something else that doesn't belong there to be allowed to be there and spread and operate. So, you know, there's a lot of manipulation that goes on amongst us by others. And if we're not conscious of these manipulations, we will not see what the bigger picture is and what the outcome is going to look like because we're too shut down. And that's why Fiona was saying before about like with one of our friends. I said, the job you do is not your problem. It's your dream, your bigger dream. You've got to know who you are so that you can look at all the small things and decide where you want to direct your energy into that supports the bigger dream of your life. And if you say you're part of this kingdom dream or whatever, and this is the conversation that's come up hundreds of times with many, many people over the years, that if you don't know who you are about the kingdom dream, you'll never be able to live it. You won't be able to walk its talk in this life. You won't practice it.
That's exactly what I was going to tell you. You just said it, walk the talk. I was going to say, you get stuck, you stay stuck in your duality, and you cannot walk the talk. And you were referring about Jabba. Listen, no matter what he did, no matter what I still like the guy. I cannot dislike anybody. So it's not personal for me. But
exactly, that's how you should be.
Yeah,
we don't take anything personal to anybody, no matter how malevolent one's intention is, because they just lost themselves.
Yeah,
because they're in scripts. They're performing scripts under their orders.
Always been pure with that, with Jabba, with you, with anybody. So I'm not. It's nothing personal. But when
I get that
to his new album, which is amazing, I think he did a great job. But there's a song in there. It's called "Let It Go" or "Let Go," something like that. And that's what he says. And that came to me like walk the talk, like Jabba, let go, man. Let go.
Yeah, so the point I'm getting at, whether it doesn't, to me, when we are infected by the lie and we go after another man to conquer another man and try and take over control of the information, like a commentator through television, whether it's a current affair anchorman or just a journalist, they can twist the story, slant it to make it something else that it isn't. And this is the stuff that I address and that manipulate people. Now, whether it's from the ego of their own perception and they can't see the bigger picture, or whether they're malevolently doing it through intent, it's the same damage. It's the same stuff. So this man will not sit back and let that play out. We'll go and confront it, right? If wherever it's required, and then if necessary, sever ties and just keep moving on with what we're doing. Because see, we're not answerable to anybody. So I only mentioned the Jabba thing so that Jabba is not my authority. Jabba is not my conscience. You know, it's this man's conscience. I know what this man's doing, why this man does what he does, and this man lives in the experience of what this man does with Fiona, with the children, with other friends who say they want to live this dream. So what happens there? You got to know this man's intention and sense it to know the truth. Right? But while people have this baggage, forget the government coronavirus manipulating. You can have people come close to you who act as if they are part of what we're all about and twist it. So you have to route that out and cut it, sever it. Right? Now, sometimes in the bigger picture of the work, we allow these things to happen too because we want people to see how it works. We want people to have a taste. And those who are strong enough who can hang in there will learn from that and become even stronger. While those who run away will run away, which is what you want, because you don't want anyone hanging on that becomes a distraction when already we have so much to deal with from a bigger picture in this change. You follow what I'm saying? Like you look at how you're coping and handling coronavirus. And that intrusion in your private life. But when it comes to some of us who want to work intimately as recreate tribes the way things were before, these people need to do everything possible, these occultists, to sabotage and undermine it and destroy it and throw everything at it to not let it flourish, because it is their greatest threat. So you comprehend that? When we take back responsibility for who we really are, our real lives, food, water, shelter, of the domain that we hold of our dream of life, they don't operate inside it because they're not there. Now, why do you think they came and visited all the tribes everywhere across Earth for the last 1,000 odd years? And why is it that we have a one world system now with the coronavirus and all the planks we touch? It's because there is an agenda. These people are operating from scripts through their orders of their societies. And you can't have a #1 hit like Jabba and not have sold out in the industry.
Next Sunday,
you can't get that far.
Next Sunday, what I would like to do also, we have looked at the maybe the positive side, the outside of the box. I would like to look on the inside of the box also. What prevents us from opening those windows and starting to breathe? Because we don't even notice we're breathing sometimes. So what would allow us, like, is there fear? Is this your ego? Is this your all kinds of things that can prevent you from opening the windows and look at life the way it is? So I would like next Sunday to maybe look at this and maybe keep going a bit with like the pain and stuff. Right now, I do like start to move a bit, but I explained.
Talking about these events like the Jabba is part of what you're just discussing. We have to be able to show all the dirty laundry, both our own dirty laundry and anyone else's. Because if we can't look at it from a bigger picture, we will not know how to navigate out at all. We will never know. Because and worst of all, we're not actually living, practicing 24/7 the tools of true freedom, where food, water, shelter is with our full responsibility. We're not giving it away anymore, right? In their world, like in their law, they have nothing at all that tells you that you're a slave.
I know.
It's done by proxy, by default. It's very cunning, the guile of these things. And that's because people are attached to the things of the system. And because they are attached to it, it brings everything else with it as well.
That's
so unless we
window to look from the inside is the dependency on the system. That's the big one. So yeah, so I have to.
Yeah. All right.
But we will see each other again next Sunday night for me, Monday early in the
morning
for you, and that's it. I wish you a good one.
And you too.
And,
thank you, Janik.
Thank you, Johnny, for allowing these kind of conversations to be recorded, played on the net.
Always full joy for me. I'm growing every time I have a conversation with you. I'm growing out of my nonsense a bit more. And feels good. Feels good. Maybe in a few years I'll be out of my nonsense. But I started to realize, like I told you, the dream and stuff, that it didn't really matter, my dream and the whole thing of the system of life. So, I'm starting to really, what you told
it's all an intention.
Yeah, what you told me all those years, you and Fiona, really sank in, and now it's starting to produce something. Like it has to sink in a bit. You prove it. It's yeah. And like I said, I'm becoming more silent. Also, like I don't want to. It's so deep. It's so much work to just open the box a little bit and realize that you're stuck in a box within a box. But anyway. It's always a great pleasure for me to have those talk with you.
You too, mate.
Okay.
Thank you.
You too,
All the
Janik.
best, mate.
That's listening and viewing this. We will be back for more. See ya.